Let it happen.
Hey, we're live.
Howdy, howdy. What's up, Lonnie?
Hey, Lonnie.
Oh. All right, I almost get my computer working again. All right, folks, it's Adam and Scott. We're just hanging out.
Oh, and it's a little heathen.
Little heathen.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Is that yours?
That's mine. He must be bored tonight.
We'll keep it PG-13, huh?
Oh, Dad's doing a live. I think I'll pop in. I've got nothing better to do.
What? That's awesome.
That's awesome. No, it's awesome. It's always cool to see
Love
you
it.
pop in.
Love it. It's cool.
He'll yell at me for swearing, but I don't think he really cares about what we talk about. He's pretty privy.
Well, I mean, I'll try and be mindful of it.
All right. Well, he's probably just waiting for a Fortnite, somebody on Fortnite, so he'll probably just be here a minute. But either way, buddy, I'm glad you're here.
That's awesome.
Got to see him and his brother yesterday. They came over. It was a great day. Got to play some baseball. I feel like I threw 9 innings, even though I played catch for like an hour. So
little rotator cuff.
yeah. The shoulder hurts. The elbow hurts. Slept like a baby last night.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I was going through my notes from my mastermind with Peter Crone yesterday because there's some stuff I wanted to address that I think. Let's see if I can find it. Well, trying to find it. Where did it go? Anyway, I can't find it.
Well, that's all right. There was one thing that you had mentioned today. It was a post that you recently threw out there, and it's kind of my theme of the day was talking about like freedom.
Oh yeah. So I went. So I'm in North Carolina right now. Work trip again, and asked the lady down at the hotel desk, is like, what's a good place for a burger? She said, "Oh, go check out this. It's called 42 Blue, just like a little dive joint." Walked in, it is packed, slam packed. Kind of looked over the ladies at the bar. She goes, "You can sit at the bar if you want to." I was like, "Sure, sounds good." And I was just kept sitting there, placed my order, and was just kind of reflecting because I was recalling kind of some of the stuff that you had talked about in your live and about freedom and everything. And there was a point in time when, obviously there was a point in time when I would gladly sat at the bar, and been ordering a cocktail or something like that. But after getting sober, there was definitely a point in time where I would go out to eat, like be with my parents or something. We'd sit at the bar, and I just feel like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not supposed to sit here, even though I have no desire to drink. It's like this feeling of, ugh.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, I don't know, a couple of years later that once I kind of moved away from AA and started doing my own thing that I kind of associated that. It's like, when you're talking about freedom, that is definitely part of the freedom that I want, is freedom from alcohol in all of its iterations, even talking about sobriety and recovery. I don't want to be so defined by my sobriety and recovery that I feel uncomfortable just sitting here around alcohol, because I never was uncomfortable before. And now I'm uncomfortable because I'm being told that I shouldn't be around it.
Yeah.
So, it's just a thought I had, and that's what kind of led to that post.
Yeah, I mean, I can like the smell of pipe tobacco and not want to smoke it. You know what I mean? Like I can hear somebody talk about a drink that they're mixing and be like, that would taste good.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to feel like, oh no, that's icky. Ooh, I can't even look. You know what I mean? Like I can't even talk about that. But yeah, what's the point of recovery if you can't be free? And to go there's some really good bar burgers out there that need to be consumed. and we can't leave them behind because we're
That's
afraid of something, right?
that's absolutely the truth, man. This one was good too.
I mean,
Good.
know yourself, right? So if you knew
Yeah,
that walking in there that you were going to have a problem with not ordering a cocktail with it, then fine, stay out of there. Nobody's encouraging. Unlike some people, I'm not encouraging people to test the waters
right,
but if you're fine with it and you're in a good place, go have that
right.
bar burger, man. What the fuck? Why get sober if you're going to live in fear? Isn't the AA whole program is based on, well, it's fear. That's why you have all these resentments, because of fear. That's why you
Yeah,
drank, because of fear. Well, why would I trade one thing for the other just to live in more fear? I'm not doing it.
absolutely right. And so that segues or just it translates nicely to something I responded to somebody on Twitter earlier, and I think it was Daryl who made the comment about it's fine that you don't go one way or the other with your sobriety pathway. It's what you choose to do, or what do you choose to make sure you don't go back to the substance. And my response to that is part of my sobriety, part of my, I should say, my recovery is building my life on sobriety. My life becomes my recovery. And excuse me, in that recovery, I'm to the point where I know that I can't go back and drink. There's a point when you are, I don't want to say sober enough, but you have been sober long enough that your thinking has healed, where you know that making that decision to drink is no longer, it's not a compulsive thing. Oh fuck it, I'm going to drink today. It's you decided to drink at some point. And so at this stage of the game, if I decide to drink, on me, it's not
Yeah,
like I just had a massive craving and blah blah blah, I couldn't control it. There's a difference between 30 days sober and 3+ years sober, and having your life and your recovery where it's supposed to be.
yeah, yeah. I
But
mean, yeah, like, yeah. Uh, I drew a blank as soon as I was going to respond, of course. But no, um,
well, it's responsibility now. So one thing we talked about with in the mastermind with Peter yesterday is it doesn't matter, and this sounds callous the first time you hear it until you really think about it and digest it. Bad things happen to people all the time.
mhm,
People go through all sorts of horrible trauma, life circumstances that you would not wish on anyone. And when I say this, I'm not diminishing what happens. It's not your fault that you were abused, you were traumatized.
yeah,
It is your responsibility. And what I mean by that is it's your responsibility now to understand how that has affected you and to deal with it and to process it and move forward through it.
yeah,
Otherwise, you stick there in the victim mentality for your entire life. And so it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And I think that's where we go awry sometimes with sobriety and recovery.
yeah, yeah. And everybody's worst day is equal. So like that rich kid that got everything that they ever needed, never had anything to want for, and their dad buys them a
Yeah,
Mustang instead of Ferrari. That's their worst day, and I'm sorry, but they don't know anything worse than that. So
exactly right.
that's like that might be equal to your worst day of getting a divorce. It sounds ridiculous, but it's the
Yeah,
truth,
it's
because
exactly right.
that's your reality.
It's
And
exactly
so
right, man.
you drank over that. Well, yeah, because that was really bad for me. You know what I mean? Like, what a mean thing to say.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody that's been down the road that we have goes out and chooses to drink again because it was raining on a day that
right.
you're supposed to go golfing or something. It's
Yeah,
not something like that. I think that might be an excuse earlier on, but
sure.
um, I just I think it's really important to remember that everybody's worst day is equal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the opposite of that is you hear sometimes like, oh, well, he just wasn't using, he wasn't using his entire brain or something like that. Everybody operates at 100% of their brain capacity. It's just some of us have larger capacities than others to process. And I think that's something that you can learn and build over time. And it's the same with emotions.
Yeah.
It's the same with emotions. And that's something that it took me forever to realize, is that I can learn to recognize and process these emotions.
Yes.
That was a huge part of what I've been doing.
Experience is so important, and that goes right with the emotions. If you haven't experienced these emotions before, you don't know how to deal with them. And so in a little bit of a way, it's good to experience some negative emotions so you can handle them better, or to be raised like I wasn't raised to deal with negative emotions. I was raised to ignore them. Right? So if you had to face your negative emotions as a child and you're doing pretty solid in life right now, make sure to go give your parents an attaboy, because that's a good move to do.
That's right. That's right. That's right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Lonnie. Meaning to find the roots of abuse within yourself and dealing with it. Yep. Got to process that stuff. Otherwise, it just sits there and festers. What else we got, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, Lonnie also said, avoid the appearance of evil. Perspective is everything. I mean, you can go to the analogy of a car accident. You can have 10 people see it, and the cops will come and talk to all 10 people, and you might get 5 different stories.
Yep.
So, I mean, because a bar has alcohol doesn't mean bar has to be bad. It's all about perspective, and that's why I think it's so important to have these conversations. Out of all the things that I posted today and the comments that I got, there were just a couple people that were like, you might turn people away from AA the way you're talking. And it's like, okay, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. Why is that a bad thing? Because a lot of people have done it without AA. Yeah. But that's also not my intent. So if that's what you feel, then that's fine. I can't help that. But my intent is not to turn AA away. AA laid the groundwork for me to learn what I've learned. It wasn't until I got in there and got my feet wet that I decided that, okay, well, I like this little bit of it and I like this little bit of it. Okay, this person's full of shit. This person's full of shit. This is what it really says. Okay, well, I'm going to build on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing to turn people away from AA. I don't think it's bad to turn them away from anything if you're giving something in return. I don't say the things that I say about AA and then just offer nothing else. I say, this is what I've done. This is what I've looked into. And I think that's just having discussion. That's not.
Yeah. I think the way that, what I think you do a really good job of is explaining what it is that you disagree with, explaining why you disagree with it. And if that turns somebody away from AA, that's somebody who was going to get to AA and not like it to begin with.
Yeah. Right.
So, I don't see it as you're preventing someone who would have done really well with AA from going to AA.
Yeah.
I think you're giving somebody who's like,
what you're saying when you say that is that I have more power than this great and wonderful program that has no flaws. That's what you're saying. And so just by saying that, you were saying that your program doesn't have the power that you thought it does, if little old me could deter it. Right.
Yep.
And again, AA is very, very good. It has a lot of good things, especially, and I mentioned this earlier today, the best part about AA is that you might be like me and feel like an anomaly because none of your friends drink like you do. The people that are close to you don't drink like you do or hardly drink at all. They're all really good people. They all love the hell out of you, but yet you can't quit drinking for them. What the fuck's the problem?
Right.
You walk into the doors and all of a sudden there's a bunch of other people just like you that are feeling the same way. So that's the number one thing that AA brings to the table. I think it's everywhere, and you can find common people, and that I'm not the only one like this.
Yeah. It definitely, when I first went to treatment and got introduced to AA, it was a relief to have that experience. And have somebody tell their story and go, damn, yeah, I get all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, eventually it just got to the point where I wanted to go and search out the principles and the underlying problems as opposed to just keep piling band-aids on, for lack of a better word, expression. So um,
Yeah.
there,
So look, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
no, there was something I was thinking of and I lost it. All those brain cells I killed.
Oh shit. We were talking about freedom,
Yeah,
and I talked about, I spent much of my time thinking I was more of a problem because I couldn't believe or think like other people did in AA. And that was kind of the post that I read without reading the whole thing again. But I just got this this comment on here, and I think it speaks to a lot of people, and that's like I said in my live earlier. Like, I'm talking to the other me that's out there, or the other one that's close to me, thinking like, I don't really fit into AA. I like it, but I don't believe like they believe, and I don't feel like they feel about certain things. And this person says, I literally could not do it the way everyone told me was the right way. It took my own bullheadedness and frustration paired with unwavering support of my lady or my lad to shake the damn thing. 12 steps and Jesus seemed alarmingly guilt based. I chose strength. So without touching that one too much with a stick and ripping that one open, it does, and that's what ultimately led me away from both of those things, uh, religion and AA. Is step one is, well, you're powerless. Okay, that's negative. Step two, you have an inanimate object that you're powerless over, and you're replacing that with another one to get the power. It made no sense to me.
right.
And so I don't want to do the steps for the rest of my life and dwell on the bad shit that I've done. Do I need to make amends? Yeah, I'm working on that. Yeah, I need to right the wrongs that deserve to be written. The craziest thing is to me, dude, is when I was in AA, my mom left me basically on the doorstep of my great grandmother's and was in and out of my life barely, um, but would try to cause ripples whenever she could. And when I got into AA got really into it in my late 30s. Now, I'm 42, so I think I had started AA when I was 39 because I couldn't beat drinking. I spent my 40th birthday alone, so that's how I remember that. It's a really good reminder. um, but they were telling me, well, you got all these resentments against your mom. What part did you play in that? Not a fucking thing, dude.
Yeah,
She left me behind and she lied and manipulated and did all these things. Why should I feel like I did anything? Why can't I just resent the frick out of her because she's a bad human?
yeah,
I had no part to play, but I kept digging and trying to figure, okay, so maybe you're right. Maybe I did have a part to play. Now, some people are just douchebags, and that's just how I feel about it. I mean,
yeah,
people will argue with me on it probably, but that's just how I feel about it. You can
yeah,
just let some people go, and I don't need to live in my resentment because that's not healthy for me. But I don't need to try to make up something of how I was part of the problem because I just
right.
wasn't.
Well, so here's, I keep coming back to this notion that with AA Bill and the steps and everything, like they stumbled into bits and pieces of a methodology that works, and they like kind of hit on some of these principles, but there's also so many other layers of just fluff and unnecessary stuff. And I think maybe part of the your part in the resentment, I resent this person because, and what is your part in that? I think a better way of asking that question is, what is the story you are telling yourself about this situation that has now translated into your life?
Oh,
So
perspective.
how has that flavored, or how has that colored the lens through which you are seeing life? And I think, and this is just complete speculation on my part, but I think maybe a few people did that when they first did the steps, and that was the only way they thought to communicate that idea is, well, what was your part in it? Instead of saying what was your part in it, they should have said, how has this affected your perception of life?
All right.
And I think if you were to do the steps and do I don't even remember the numbers. What is it? 4 and 5? Was that
Mhm.
7 and 8? I don't know.
So the men's is 8 and 9.
Yeah. So if you were to do those again with the thought of how has this influenced my perception of life as opposed to what was my part in this, it might change things around.
Sure.
And I think that might be, that's probably the principle behind that method there. At
Yeah.
least my thought.
Well, just by what you just said there, I'm able to look at the relationships that I've had in my life because of what happened with my mom. And immediately, as soon as I get any kind of negative feedback or I don't get, and I still see it today, if Miley wakes up and I perceive that she's in a bad mood, I perceive she's mad at me and that she's going to leave me or not want to talk to me, and that's so silly. And I know it's silly, but I get those feelings like she's mad. She's just going to leave me. She's just going to leave me behind. And that's leftover crap from
It is.
Mom thing. Yeah.
That totally is. That totally is. I mean, what I hear now that I've heard you tell that story a few times, I mean, tell me if you don't want to go down this road, but what I hear is this feeling, this little boy's abandonment and feeling of being discarded.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. And it's a pissed off teenager that, fine, whatever. It's a pissed off teenager that needed his mom one time in his life. After all the things that she had missed, I needed her one time in a phone call to say one thing.
Yeah.
And she didn't say it. and it changed the course of everything. But
yeah,
I say that and the anger is still there. I can feel it in my chest right now.
Yeah.
But I am doing these lives with you and Lindsay and doing them by myself and talking recovery all the time and the people that I've met through the podcast. I am happy that she didn't say what she said because I wouldn't have what I have in my life right now. Do I wish I was 20 years fucking younger? Yes. But so does everybody. So I am completely at peace. But I'm not going to feel bad that I hold this anger towards her.
Yeah.
For certain things. I'm just not going to do it because that to me just compounds it. Like when we talk about the steps and the negativity in the steps, I just feel like I'm just burying myself more.
Right.
I'm just burying myself more and more and more. I know what these things are. Yes, I need to address them at some point, but at some point I also too just let them fly away. Let them just sail into the darkness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I wish there was a way for the step or to insert into the steps or to get the 12-step community as a whole to when you get to that situation or to that step where you start listing all the resentments and then we go at it from the perspective of this is how I've now seen the world through this, is then taking that last step of making the realization and processing the fact that if I cut you open and look for a made in USA tag, there's not going to be something in there that says, hey, ingredients include resentment, shame. It is not a part of who you are. It is just a part of the story that you've told yourself. Right. And once people can just get that, as soon as you see somebody get that whole story collapses and you just see this. Wow.
I like it, dude. I like that a lot.
It's something that I'm trying to work on helping other people try to see that. And when I do make somebody, or I don't say I make them, but when I help somebody come to that realization, it is just, you just see the light in their eyes change. Yeah. And that's what recovery is to me, because I had that experience. And that's what I want to give to other people. So
yeah. When you go to the mortician, when your time comes, and he opens you up and looks at your ingredient label, what's it gonna say?
That's exactly right.
Is it chock full of resentments, or is it other things that you would rather it be? Yeah,
that's right, man.
That's good.
Oh, Lonnie, you don't have to be quiet. There's some stuff in here. I told you it's just called. We're gonna let fate guide this one. So
Yeah.
you got. We'll quote the Terminator. There is no fate but what we make.
Yeah. So
Isn't that a Sarah Connorism?
it might be. This same person before they went a little farther with it. Said not to say that those paths are for the weak. Merely choosing to kick the addiction is a valiant in itself. I just need a different perspective. More power to the folk in the 12 step, Jesus, or whatever it takes to get you through. Hell yeah. A different perspective, man.
Yeah.
That's all people want sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe you're saying the right things, but you're not saying it in the right way to make it click for people. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Your perception, how you perceive things, is all based on your perspective. And when some people don't get that, like, what do you mean? Those are the same things. Like, no, my perspective of this valley is from this top of this mountain, and I perceive the valley. If I'm over here on this mountaintop from a different perspective, I'm going to perceive a different angle of the valley. So that's all it is.
Yep.
But how you perceive is your reality. Perception is reality, and sometimes you just need that different perspective, that different vantage point.
Yeah.
Totally agree with it.
Or you need to hear it one more time. An example that came to my head as we were talking about diet soda and the zero sodas, Miley and I, and she's like, "Well, in the diet, the aspartame's really bad for you." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's better than just drinking hordes of sugar all day long." And then I go to work and my boss is like, "Yeah, aspartame's terrible." So I come home like, I think I'm going to stop drinking the diet and I'll just stick with the zero. She's like, "For real?" Like, I've only been saying that for what, for how long? And it's like, it just took me to hear it from one other person.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't that I didn't believe you. It just,
yeah.
it takes what it takes.
Oh man, yeah. There's artificial sweeteners like Splenda. Like for the longest time, what is sweet and low called? Sulfame potassium. No, that's HK. Sucralose. I can't remember. But Splenda is the worst. Splenda is one molecule off from being plastic.
Oh well. FDA approved, baby.
That's right, man. That's right.
Hey, check out the comment from Lonnie. Let's dive into that one.
Let's see that last one.
Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
There.
How do you feel about digging up all prior stuff and making amends with everything? I had a hard time digging everything up again. It's scary. So I think the AA response would be, of course it's scary because you don't want to do it. Well, I think if you need to dig it up again, and sometimes it is scary, but I don't know, man. I felt like when I was, and I'll just speak from my experience, there were things that I would talk about that I had to dig up again that I felt like were already pretty settled. You know what I mean? But they were a part of my story. And so in order to tell my story, I had to tell that, but then I had to rehash it again. So I guess you have to just be honest with yourself. That's what I would say when going back through and digging up things in the past or whatever. I don't know. What do you think, man?
Yeah, so the part of me, so yes, I think it's a necessary part at some point. Depending on what you've done in your life and your frame of mind and how emotionally stable you are, sitting down with a sponsor and doing that might not be the best idea. But then again, it might be fine. I do believe that processing that guilt and coming to terms with it and realizing that you are human and that you make mistakes and giving yourself that acceptance and getting over that, I think that's a major step in long-term sobriety and recovery. I don't know about the amends portion. I think to me, I don't quite understand the reason for the amends. I mean, I understand the reason for the amends in that it helps you to put everything to bed. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessary, and this is just my personal belief. I don't think it's necessary for me to go out of my way to make amends for every little bad deed
Yeah.
that I can think of.
Yeah. What are you supposed to call up that high school girlfriend? You're supposed to call up that girl
Yeah,
in your 20s that you started dating and then met somebody else, and where does it stop? You know,
right.
and I mentioned this. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, the loophole is they use is that unless it's going to cause harm.
Yeah.
Okay, well then who gets to decide who how it's going to
What's
cause harm?
harm?
Is
Yeah.
it going to cause harm to them? Is it going to cause harm to me?
Yeah.
Is going to make amends with this person going to actually put me in a more emotionally or disadvantaged place? I don't know. I think processing the guilt is extremely important. I just don't know that the steps are the best way to do that based on personal experiences and
Yeah. Ditto. I think if you're going to make amends to the people, I think look at what their their space in your life that they're going to take up. If it's not a significant part, it might just be best just to not do it. But don't that's what therapy is for. That's what friends and family are for, to really decide on these things. You know what I mean? Like, I know what's right for me, and it took some time for me to figure that out, and that time had to be sober time to really be able to process and think through things, to get my mind clear. I just if if the steps are something that need to be done for a lifetime, if you're in that ballpark, or whoever you're talking to, your sponsors in that ballpark, then I just don't see how they would be the ones to tell you if you should or should not do it, because they're still working on their steps. So
yeah,
I you do what's right. So how do you ask how we feel about this? I feel that making amends when necessary is really healthy for you,
yeah,
and digging up things that, if it's something you think about on a daily basis and you can't get it out of your mind, then yeah, dig away and get to
yeah,
the root cause and get it out of there. That's
yeah,
how I feel about it.
yeah. Absolutely. I would say if I couldn't get rid of something, I kept feeling guilty about something, then it's telling me I need to address it.
Right.
Like, but if I can forgive myself for who I was, how I acted when I was in the throes of drinking the way I was, and the people around me that I know and love are not affected by those past behaviors, because granted, some of them definitely were.
Yeah.
They understand and they don't hold it over me. Then to me, we've had a conversation, and I've apologized, and they
Yeah.
forgive me. I don't see a reason in digging it back up.
Yeah. Because I
Um,
mean, you could go all day long.
yeah,
Ring, ring, ring. Hey, would you like to come out to dinner with us? No, I'm not feeling too well. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh shit. You know what? I just didn't want to go. I need to make an amends now. Like, it's.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
No, dude, I mean, I get
I'm
it.
all over the place now. But yeah, I think it's fun to talk about, because I think that, well, maybe not fun. It's fun having discussions and talking about difficult things, or things that you know might be controversial to some,
Yeah,
but it opens the door to conversation. And I'm not going to be offended if somebody comes on and, like, I issued the open door policy to anybody that is an
yeah,
AA that disagrees with me to come on and chat,
yeah.
because maybe I am missing something.
Well, hey, the other thing is, and I put this in our group chat to you guys. When I come up for me, when I have an aha moment about my own personal recovery and I connect some ideas together, it's usually in the reference of, and this is why it doesn't work for me for AA, because that's how my brain processes. I have to have a reference point. And for the majority of the world, AA is the reference point of, this is how you get sober.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And so if they're the gold standard, then everything's going to be compared to the gold standard.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's the gold standard, except for the fact that it's just been around the longest and it got adopted by the government.
Right.
So when I make
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it just is what it is. You can't. You can't help but talk about alternatives and different ways of doing it because you have to have something to compare to, and
And
that's
and if
what.
it's going to be the go-to for medical people and for law enforcement and government agencies, then you have to talk about it. And
Exactly.
so when you disagree with it, it's just going to happen. I mean,
Yes.
our best studies, our literal best studies, show a 5 to 10% success rate with AA.
Yep.
That's no good. That is not good. That is terrible. And I had a guy say, "Well, they've helped millions of people." Okay, well, if 5 to 10% are millions of people, how many people did it not help?
Right. Right.
Look at the bad number here. I mean, it's a bad number, but again, that's not diminishing what it has done for people. This is
That's
not
right.
saying that you got, it clearly helped you if you said it does. I have no reason to doubt you saying that. It's not like I'm saying, well, you recovered in spite of how terrible AA is. That's not what I'm saying. It clearly works for some people, and it's
Yeah.
very beneficial. But it doesn't work for a lot more than I think that we want to uh, let in on.
So I think there's like two, maybe three types of people that do AA. Well, I can't even really make that statement. So the people that I found that were very successful in AA that I wanted the kind of sobriety they had didn't do AA anymore. They got sober and they stopped doing AA and they're still sober and just live a life sans alcohol. Alcohol they just don't drink. Those people were who I wanted to emulate. Unfortunately, I couldn't emulate them because they don't go to meetings anymore. Then you got the people who are in meetings because they don't know any other way to get sober or they're court ordered to be there and they got to get a signature.
Mm-hmm.
I was in that group too. Then you got the people who are there for the community. And we've talked about this before. There is a portion of the steps that give you purpose. They give you
Yep.
community and purpose. Okay. The carry this message to all the other alcoholics in trouble, that gives you purpose. And if your life doesn't have purpose and all of a sudden you find some purpose, you're going to latch onto that purpose
Yeah.
because now you have something that's going to help you not drink and it makes you feel good. It lights up all the serotonin receptors or lights up serotonin, the here and now chemicals, the happy juice. You feel good about it. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best way just because we say it is. So,
Everybody that when I was in treatment for those I've been in there 4 times, 3 times in the year. Every single person, all we wanted to do was sponsor somebody. When can we sponsor? Then we wanted to start sober living houses. Everybody wanted to do that because
yep,
that's what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to have purpose in our life. And that,
exactly.
yeah, then you get released from treatment, which we can talk about inpatient treatment some other time. But then you get released out of treatment, and all of a sudden the bubble's gone, and you're back in the
Yep.
real world. And now I don't, I ain't sponsoring nobody. I'm not even going to a meeting. I got to work.
Yeah.
I got to be home for my kids. All this reality hits. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, purpose and community is probably the cure
Yeah,
for any type of addiction.
yeah.
Purpose and community. So,
It's the cure for anything, really.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, depression, anxiety. If you can find purpose in life and you have a support system, holy crap, you can do some great things.
Yep, that's what it was. So, uh, where did I put it? I've got to find this.
Yeah, while you're looking for that, Lonnie, that's pretty spectacular. I won't read it because I don't know how far you want it to go. But to have somebody do something, an assault, we'll just say that, or abuse to you, and then come back and ask for forgiveness, boy, that's gotta feel like justification, right? Like, boy, they know that they did me bad and they did me wrong, and they come back and ask for forgiveness. It doesn't erase obviously what they did, but that's got to be like, yeah, you were wrong, and you were wrong. That's got to feel pretty decent.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah. Thank you. That, I mean, that shows you right there. Somebody's doing some inner work.
Yeah.
That is inner work being done.
Yeah.
And just if somebody comes to you asking for forgiveness, to me, that's one, it's a huge sign for them, but it's a huge sign to you that somebody actually respects you enough to realize that they did you wrong.
Right.
And that they are acknowledging that I'm a human and I fucked up and, did not treat you with compassion as a human.
Yep.
Please, I am sorry.
Yeah.
Let me do what I need to do to make that better to you.
Yeah. You were worthy of an apology. That's big.
Yeah. But going back to our community thing. So this is a little bit more spiritual. My own personal spiritual belief is that we're all part of one, universal conscious. And we've talked about this before, but there is nothing worse for a human than to be completely isolated. It is one of the worst things that a human being can experience is complete isolation from any other person. And I started thinking about this. And so, I'm big on identity and I am statements. And so I am really and truly is the end of that sentence, is the end of that statement. I am. I just am. My conscience, my soul lives inside the hardware, this meat suit of a body.
Yeah.
All right. And when we are isolated from someone else, we don't get to experience or connect with the other part of the am, because they also have an I am. But from the universal conscious standpoint, it's the same conscience, and that's how we connect with each other. So by being isolated, we lose our sense of purpose. We lose our identity. And when you can get somebody and bring them back into a community and they can reconnect with conscience, then that's when we start to heal again. And so the drugs and the alcohol, one, we're isolated to begin with. We start doing that keeps us isolated and makes us even more isolated. Hard to explain without sitting down and having a much longer conversation. But
it makes sense to me, man. That's why I think misery loves company in a kind of a way. That's still a community. When you see people come into treatment or into where I work, the demeanor that these people, like, their demeanor changes so drastically when they come down and they sit with me to do an intake, and they're like, "Yeah, well, I fucked up. I've got an OWI, and I got to do all this stuff." I'm like, "Oh shit, it's the first one? No, it's my second one." It's like, "Well, I can tell you, man, it's going to be all right. I got 4. And I made my way through this," and and their ears kind of perk up, and then you start having a conversation, and they see a little bit of confidence from somebody that's been through what they have been or worse, and now there's automatically that connection or community being established, and like, you know what, maybe I can do this.
Yeah,
maybe this isn't the end of the world like I see it. But so I think there's a lot to what you said for sure.
Well, I mean, perception right there, and that goes. Back again, perception is reality.
Yeah.
What you perceive is reality. You perceive it as the end of the world, it's the end of the world.
Yep.
Perceive it as a stumbling block, it's just a stumbling block.
Like my little sign in my office says, my sign says everything is figure outable, but the other one should be like, I don't need to awfulize everything anymore.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Everything. I like that. Yeah. I like that very much.
Well,
anybody else? We got 5 eyeballs.
5 eyeballs. Need some commentators.
Hey, somebody's watching off of mine. I'll be damned.
All right.
Look there.
Well, either way, thanks, Lonnie, for listening and contributing. Thanks. Who else do we have? Little Heathen.
If he's still on there,
I'm sure he's in a match by now. Broing it up, bussing, no cap, yo. Lingo of the kids these days.
What are they calling his generation? Generation Alpha or something?
Alpha? Wow,
Yeah,
that's a strong word for it, isn't it?
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, I hope they turn out as strong as the name would suggest then.
Ah, man, I don't know.
Alpha generation.
Well, I mean, the whole phrase of was it strong men create good times create weak men, men create
Oh,
hard times create strong men.
yes, sir.
So I don't know. I think we're kind of in a hard times, or maybe we're in the weak men generation. I'm not sure, but it's
Well, you know
it's
what?
in transition.
I've gaining back more time with my sons as we go deeper into recovery here, and
Yeah.
there was a time before all this happened that one of my sons, I would kind of pick on him, or he'd say something, and I'd kind of give him a little dead just back. He'd be like, like,
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I'm just kidding, bud. Well, but you didn't have to say that or whatever. And like, dude, boy, you gotta toughen up a little bit. And these past couple weekends, especially yesterday, Miley noticed it too. Everything that we would give, he would give it right back.
Nice.
And just, they're solid, they're confident. I
Yep.
couldn't be more proud of those two. I really can't, man. So maybe Alpha's a good one for them. Maybe they're gonna
Yeah.
save us.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope so. It's fun, man. When it's not until the last, I don't know, maybe last couple of weeks I've been around my niece and my nephew a lot more, just visiting, and our schedule just worked out. And so Warren is just turned 4, and my niece is about to turn 1. And so I got sober when Adeline was 3.5-ish, about 4. So it's very weird for me to think back, because as much as I hate to admit it, I don't remember a ton of that age for her. There's a lot I do remember, but there are things that I'm doing with them that I go, did I miss out on this?
Yeah.
Am I not remembering it just because it was that long ago and it didn't stick in my head because it wasn't, at the time I may not have been drunk, but it didn't process, it didn't resonate with me to remember this, and now I'm seeing it again, or was I just blacked out and I don't remember it?
Right.
It's kind of a melancholy, like, but at the same time, like, it's not the way it is anymore.
Yeah. Yep. And that's one thing that we can lay our heads down at night in comfort, knowing that it doesn't have to be like that ever again.
Absolutely,
Right?
yeah, man. And when she's like, but no, I want to stay here more. You're like, doing something right.
Just like the Grinch's heart grows a little bit more.
Yeah,
You hear that kind of stuff?
that's right. That goes, that right there is a perfect example of why you can't tell somebody an active addiction. Why can't you do it for your kids?
Yeah.
You don't have the capacity to.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to, but you don't have the room. You don't have a large enough container to be able to process that.
Yeah.
And it's not until you get sober long enough and you actually get your body and your being and your life into the frequency of love that container grows, and that you can actually process that. Well, why don't you do it for your kids? You go, oh, well, yeah, shit, I can do it for my kids now.
Yeah.
When you're 30 days sober, well, you just drank again? Yeah, you're right. I should have thought about that. You don't have the capacity to.
And this isn't ooey gooey. I'm not sitting here saying that I look in the mirror and be like, God, I love who I'm looking at. But the love have to come from within first. Like there
Absolutely.
has to be, I don't look at this plump male body and be like, God damn, you're something special. But I don't hate myself anymore either.
Right.
That's where it starts. And now once I found myself and found a little bit of a purpose and connection to something outside of alcohol, once I got to a certain extent, now I have all the love and things that I can do for my children. It's all come with that, but it has to start there.
Yeah. Exactly right. And the key to getting there is to realize and finally understand that all the shit that I was looking for out there to make myself feel better and to numb feelings, everything that I wanted and needed was already here.
Right.
I just didn't know it and didn't have access to it because the stories that I had told myself about my life prevented me from seeing it. And once I finally removed those stories and was able to perceive my life through clear lenses again, it's wide open.
Yep.
And as soon as you can go there, man, it's just like you said, that Grinch heart just explodes.
Yeah. To go look at yourself in the mirror and find a way to make that heart grow for you. For you tonight. If you're struggling. Right. I promise you, it sounds stupid. It's like, I'm not going to sit there and say, I love you in the mirror. You don't have to, man. But you got to find some things that you like about yourself and find a direction to point yourself in where you can feel good about it. Even if it's just brushing your teeth twice a day to start out, making your bed to start out with. Just these little wins that you can get. I swear, I promise to you on my life that those little things will start building up. Do I make my bed every day anymore? No. But did it get me through sometimes just to be like, get up, make my bed, go do something, come back. Oh, shit. My sheets are tucked in. I can crawl in. It's nice and comfortable. Those little things started to add up. And now, yeah, I mean, fuck, see my bed now. It's a shit show. But I'm doing a bunch of other things to replace that now. So just find something that you can grab onto in the beginning. Every little thing counts. Every little thing counts. And write it down or make a list and 10 things like brush my teeth. Okay, throw out take out the trash, whatever, and mark those suckers off. And I promise you'll start to build up things inside that are just like, yes, I'm doing this.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Well, this is fun, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and
get on.
And thanks, Lonnie, for all the compliments. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate your perspective. It's inspiring.
Oh yeah.
And we'll keep doing it as long as we have time to do it. And who knows, maybe one day we can do it more often. That would be really cool. So
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Adam.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Good night.
Night.